to this special episode of the Lehigh Valley with Love podcast. We are on location, the first of what we hope to be many episodes here at Venturex in South Bethlehem. It's a co-working space. We're here today with the owner, Terry Wallace. We're going to talk about exactly what this is. I am your host, George Wacker, and we're welcoming you here. You know, I feel, hold on a second. I feel weird. This is the first time I've been out in like a live podcast setting in a long time. I've been up in my attic for the last year doing these, so I appreciate it. Thank you for having me here, and thanks for, I got in touch with you on LinkedIn. I think I sent you a message, and it's come to this, so it's fun to be here in this setting, and I want to learn more about Venturex, and I want to explain more about Venturex to people who might not know. So let's dive into it. Where are we? What is this? For the person who's never seen this before, have never seen a co-working space like Venturex, where are we at?
Yeah, first of all, welcome. Thrilled to be here.
Sure.
We had some great conversations, and I'm really excited to do this and get this series rolling.
Yeah.
So we're at Venturex here in Bethlehem, as you said. So what is Venturex? We're a flexible office space. I'd say high-end office space. The term we use, it's world-class office space right here at home, meticulously designed for your wellness and productivity. We got 40 offices in here. They range from an office for one person up to 10 people. And it's not just the private suites. We got memberships that will work for people that have shared desks, a little bit more traditional as people think about co-working. Kind of come and go, find a space to work, adjust, spread out, whatever it might be. We got conference rooms. We've got event space, you name it.
And that, I'm sure you've been around for a while. It didn't used to be the thing. This co-working type of idea is only, since the 2000s, I think, at least the mid-2000s really taken hold.
Yep.
What is it about, maybe even more so now, but like the way that we work that makes this a viable option for a lot of people?
Yeah, the way we work has changed. It's been changing for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
The vast majority of people and growing are in knowledge-based roles, right? They need their laptop, they need their
Right.
thoughts, they need interaction and connectivity with their teams, whatever it might be. The collaboration's a big thing too. It's no longer as you go sit in a corner and you do your job. You got to engage with other people, whether that's virtual, whether that's face to face, whatever that may be. I think the big shift also is just around flexibility and optionality.
Mm-hmm.
Very few people are still working a 9 to 5. I don't know a single person that works a 9 to 5, right?
No.
So you work in the evenings, you work early in the morning, you throw some work in on the weekends. Now, mind you, can also take the middle of the day to go to your kid's school and read a book to the class. You know what I mean? It's about that flexibility.
And even with myself, and I've been working from home for the past year during COVID. It's myself, my wife, and my daughter. It's been fantastic, but as you can imagine, that type of in there all the time for anybody, it's a lot. Being able to have a small business and having that optionality, like you said, to say, hey, I can meet you at my office in South Bethlehem. Well, maybe you're doing stuff at home to begin the day.
Yep.
You can still come here. So that's an option too. It's not something where you're coming in to Venturex 9 to 5. Is this open
24/7?
24/7.
Yeah, for members it's 24/7. There's even more to that optionality. And what I mean by that is it's the way people are working, but also it's the different options you have when you come in here. You can come in here and you can meet with, let's put COVID aside for a moment. You could have a meeting with 50 people. You can have an event, in the space. You've got a 15-foot screen. You can have an event. You can have 10 people. You can in different conference rooms. You can come here and have the most privacy you could absolutely need. It's not one or the other. And the beauty of it is you can have all of those in the same day. Mm-hmm. You can come in the morning, go to your office, just get heads down, get focused for a handful of hours, then bring a client in for a noon meeting, have a nice little sales pitch there with 2 or 3 people, and then have a team meeting at the end of the day. And you can all do it right here.
Yeah, I feel like the days of walking into work, sitting in that cubicle, not talking to anyone besides maybe whoever you're calling on the phone are over for some degree, especially in different industries. I bring that up in like different industries, like in creative industries. I think would be the first thing I would think about. But you have clients, you have people here, corporate companies here, businesses here. Sorry. Like a plumbing business, for example. So some that you might not typically think. Can you talk about that? Like how it could relate to maybe a small business that you might not typically think would benefit from a co-working space?
Sure. It's a question I was asked a lot as we were kind of thinking through this, bringing this to the Lehigh Valley. What businesses are you looking for? Who are you looking to target? It's a very difficult question to answer. I've thought about it a lot, and I would say we have a tremendous diversity of businesses that are in here, everywhere from a tailor to a plumbing company, to Lovely Faces who does eyelashes and eyebrows, to a tech consulting firm, to a Solcom communications and PR firm, Zeptepi Creative.
The Ryan is right here. Yeah,
exactly. We got a tremendous mix. We've got graduate students. We've got a professor that's in here. We've got a couple lawyers in here. It's quite broad. But I don't want to cop out and not answer that question. So the answer that I would give is the folks that will benefit most from here, the folks we are looking for are, I would say, knowledge-based workers. In other words, they get their work done with their computer and their thoughts, right? Knowledge-based workers who live close. Nobody should be driving an hour or 2 hours to get here. The whole point is we're here in your backyard, right? So knowledge-based workers who live close, I would say who have discerning taste and a client-facing business. Right, so this is an impressive place. I'm a little biased, but this is a beautiful place.
No, absolutely.
This is a place. If you don't care where you work, this isn't for you. This is a place where
it is a little see and be seen to a little bit. But let's be honest. That's kind of the reason why you would pick a place like this. You want to have that energy around you from other people. You know that you're going to be probably interacting at some point.
Yeah.
With somebody else.
And the way we're designed, it's for that optionality as well. When you come in, regardless of what door you come in, everything you see, regardless of what membership level you have access to. You see the conference rooms, you see the phone booths, you see the common area, you see the reception area, which is professionally staffed 9 to 6 every day. You see a stocked cafe. You have access to everything. As you start to flow through the place, it gets a little bit more private. I wouldn't say exclusive. It just gets more private.
And that's something that you can decide to have. Like if I want a little bit more privacy, something for me that's really, maybe a little bittersweet. When I started my business, the first thing we thought of was maybe that traditional. We've got to get an office building or a storefront to begin, and then you look at some of those prices, what it would have been to have an office. I'm like, this is ridiculous. We have an attic I can put a computer in. I'm not going to spend. For our company, which was 2 people, $1,500 in addition to have that space. But if you're coming out, even if you're a younger entrepreneur who doesn't want, why would you incur that type of overhead? This seems like a perfect, hey, I'm going to do my business is selling thimbles. I don't know. But I can be in a space, well, maybe there's somebody like Ryan I can talk to and shoot stuff off about other things, web developing, all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah, the ability to get started and kind of the ticket ride, you don't have to go negotiate a 10-year lease or even 5-year lease. You don't need to go get the furniture. You don't need to work with contractors. You don't need to go to utilities, get the technology, all those type of things. People don't fully, I think, often appreciate that rent is one line item amongst 15 line items if you're going to think about getting an office space, right?
Yeah.
So what we have here is literally someone can walk in the door, sign up, and within minutes, they've got a space. They're working. They're getting something done, which is fantastic for those folks as far as the ticket to entry, so to speak, to start your business, whatever it might be. It's exceptional, I would say, also for larger companies looking for a local presence. Companies that aren't in the Lehigh Valley who are looking to get into the Lehigh Valley. We've got a realtor here. They have emphasized elsewhere in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and they are very keen to get into Lehigh Valley. They literally just turnkey, boom, they've got an office for a couple people and they're working here. So it greases the skid, so to speak, for the Lehigh Valley, and that's one of the main focuses.
And that goes right into the next thing I want to talk about is why the Lehigh Valley. We're going to get into, in the second part, your history a little bit, but why is the Lehigh Valley clearly for you if you're going to invest? People who haven't seen this space, check the podcast notes, look at the video when we do it. It's exceptional. And it fits well with the aesthetic of South Bethlehem and steel, and a lot of thought went into that. Maybe we can talk about that in a minute.
Sure.
But what about the Lehigh Valley itself is exciting for somebody like you to say, hey, I'm going to invest in this. I believe in it. What did you see?
Yeah. A couple things. First and foremost is just the reality. This is home. We've lived here for 20 years. My wife, Michelle, my daughter, Michaela. They're in Vegas right now for her 21st birthday. I'm home working. Yeah, living the dream, right? So
I'm taking my daughter.
Yeah. So first and foremost, it's home. But let me add to that.
Sure.
Is although we've lived here about approximately 20 years, I've never actually worked in Pennsylvania. I've worked in New York. I've had global roles, so I knew how to drive from my house to New York or my house to Newark and get on a plane and go. I think a big piece of this is, number one, it's home. The other two is just the dynamics of the Lehigh Valley. It's growing. It's expanding. There are tremendous professionals here. There's great businesses. This is a fantastic place to live. I may get in a little trouble on this one, but I've always seen it as a fantastic place to live, but a difficult place to work and build a career in. It can be done anywhere, but New York, the options are plenty. Right. Philly, plenty. We're right in the middle. I don't know the number, but it's big. The number of people that, almost like a heartbeat, that come out of the Lehigh Valley into those two big cities every single day.
Oh, sure. I don't think anybody denies that, yeah.
Oh, and I did that for a long time. I was very fortunate those last, 5 or 6 years that I ended up having I had an apartment in New York, so I didn't have to do that commute anymore. But I can comfortably say I did it a lot. I used to catch that 5:05 bus in and out of the city. 100% of the people that are going in and out of New York or Philly every day don't like it. There's just no way. It's brutal. The cost to it, and I don't mean
is it
just
like a
monetary.
badge of, like, some of it's like that badge of honor, like, hey, I've known friends who had gone in, and you're right, maybe they don't enjoy it, but it's like, hey, I'm achieving something by being able to do this horrible commute.
Yeah. I think there is. But I would ask, what are you achieving? So you're achieving a particular role that you've probably got greater access to roles and opportunities, companies, and with that comes income, with that comes title, with those different things. In this day and age, there's no reason you can't have those jobs here. There's none. And COVID has just made that crystal clear to us. So, it's a real dynamic shift. I think we've gone from a long time of you had to have a business rationale to not go to work.
Sure.
And it may be I have a doctor's appointment or whatever it might be. We've just flipped it on the head. Now you've got to have a strong rationale to go.
Or to know when to shut it off.
Yeah.
There's times when I think I've heard people too, they're at 10 o'clock at night and they still feel that compulsion to answer it because, depending on your job, you're allowed to take time off too. But yeah, I agree. It's interesting to be able to work in that environment and to have new opportunities where in the Lehigh Valley 10 years ago, to go into a small business, you had all those hurdles like you were talking about, the bills you don't even think about.
Yeah.
So to be able to start something like this is really interesting. So I'm going to try this out. We're going to take a little break for a commercial here, and we're going to come right back. So sit tight. The Burke Insurance Agency is family-owned and operated since 1986. What else happened in 1986? Halley's Comet flew by, and that was pretty cool. The Burke Insurance Agency is located at 3446 Freemansburg Avenue in Bethlehem Township, and they represent Erie, Grange, and Progressive Insurance Companies. Tom and Kathleen are some of the nicest people in the Lehigh Valley. For real. They actually get to know their customers and care for them as if they were part of their own family. It's how a small business is supposed to be. They are also community-minded and support many nonprofits, which they are very passionate about. Give them a call at 610-691-3743 or find them on Facebook. Everything again is in our show notes. Don't wait around like Halley's Comet. Call Burke Insurance today.
Looking for a bigger home? Find Mike. Looking to downsize? Find Mike. Looking for a home in the Poconos? Find Mike. Looking for your very own bat cave? Find Mike. When looking to navigate the Lehigh Valley real estate market, the first move is to always find Mike Bernardin with Howard Schaefer and Associates of RE/MAX Real Estate. He can help you build the right game plan to achieve all your real estate goals, whether it be a home with 10 bathrooms, a home with a large garage to park your Tesla or vintage Ford Pinto, or just something perfect for you and your family. Finding Mike Bernardin is always the best way to go. So, what are you waiting for? To make all your Lehigh Valley real estate dreams come true, all you have to do is find Mike Bernardin with Howard Schaefer and Associates of RE/MAX Real Estate.
All right, we're back. Thank you to our sponsors that we just had there, the Burke Insurance Agency and Mike Bernardin of Howard Schaefer and Associates. We're back here with Terry Wallace of VentureX. We wanted to get into where you're from. You touched on that a little bit, that you had worked in jobs where you had to commute, and your commutes were to the airport and out. So, but in researching a little bit and talking with you, I know that you were a police officer back in the day. So could you kind of take us from your times then in the 90s doing as a police officer and how you moved into this type of industry? Like, I'm really fascinated with those progressions.
Yeah, it was definitely a journey. If you don't mind, I'll take you a little farther back.
Oh, yeah.
So I grew up in a military family. My father was in the Army for many, many years. We bounced around all over the U.S. We lived in New Zealand. We lived in Australia. We moved every 2 to 3 years. I'm very comfortable in saying that I learned more from moving around and living in different countries than I did at school. It was tremendous life lessons. I was very fortunate. I had a wonderful family, great parents, great siblings. But the moving was a big part of our life. Being the new kid in school every other year has a real dynamic to it. Like I said, pros and cons to anything. Mm-hmm. We lived in Australia for 3 years. That was pretty formidable years. It was while I was in high school. And during that time, my father was at the embassy, the U.S. Embassy in Australia. Okay. So we would go and visit every now and then. And I think I was 14 when we first moved there. And we would see the Marines at the gate. Right? Sure. And man, I tell you what, that was it. I drive by those guys and said, that's it. There's only one thing I want to do with my life, period. I was going to be in the Marine Corps. So I ended up enlisting in the Marine Corps. I was in the Marine Corps for a few years. I wouldn't change that for the world. Sure. Decided not to make a career of it. Ended up getting out of the Marine Corps and thought, what am I going to do with myself in this civilian world that was so foreign to me? Mm-hmm. And I thought, all right, a logical move is to be a police officer, right? Uniforms, there's structure, or whatever it might be. I think that makes sense. So I ended up getting a job as a police officer in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And I was really struck by that. I will tell you, an incredibly noble profession. And I wouldn't say anything different ever, and extremely difficult. I can't even fathom being a police officer nowadays. But during that time, I realized it's not what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. So I started going back to school. I did nights and weekends and all that craziness for a bunch of years, and I ended up getting my MBA, and decided I was going to get into consulting, which was quite funny because there I was interviewing with different consulting firms, and they're looking at, okay, Marine, police officer, MBA, what is this guy? Like, what do we make of this guy?
What are you going to consult?
Yeah. I wanted to be a business strategy consultant, So I tell you what, I interviewed with everybody more than once. I still at home, I've got a binder with 30 rejection letters, 2 from the firm I eventually worked for. So I eventually got a job with Deloitte, fantastic firm, working in New York. That's when I was doing the bus in and out. 9/11 hit. Okay. And then we instantly went virtual for a year. And this, obviously back in 2001. Right. And this was ahead of the virtual time period. But I'd say that's a firm, we did it very, very well. And I would say I worked primarily virtually from then on. And that's another reason this makes a lot of sense to me. Worked at Deloitte for a number of years, then got a role at Pfizer. Pfizer pharmaceutical company, also headquartered in New York. I had just a tremendous opportunities at Pfizer. Another phenomenal company. I was absolutely privileged to, lead a team and have my roles through there. I eventually led global HR operations at Pfizer. Left Pfizer to this funny little odd startup B company that didn't make a ton of sense to me, but it's a long story. But I thought to myself, you know what? I don't want to miss this ride. WeWork. Right, I said there's going to be a movie about this crazy place, and I don't want to miss this. Yeah, they got to be something brewing, I'm sure. So I took that leap. I was at WeWork for a little over 3 years, and I tell you that was quite an interesting ride. 2 companies that just on the broad ends of the spectrum. Pfizer, I mean, to make a decision at Pfizer, you had to be 99.9999% certain, right?
Right.
The research behind it, very methodical.
Wasn't we more just kind of dreaming and throw it at the wall? And
WeWork was a 51-49. If it kind of felt like it made sense in the moment, just kind of do it. And then next week, if something changed, figure it out. WeWork was a complex space, but grew, I think most people know the story, just grew at just an incredible rate. It was really a wonderful couple of years. Wonderful people there, worked incredibly hard, very creative, very smart, and grew that company very quickly. I decided to leave WeWork, came back home, and thought to myself, that's it. I have two criteria. I want to have my own business, and I'm done traveling. I'm done commuting. So it needed to be here at home, and it was my own business. So I took 3 months to just blue sky it. And I thought of all kinds of different things, then realized it was right in my face. Am I a co-working expert? Not by any stretch. But I realized I would have killed for a place like this for the last 20 years, to be this close. And I thought it's just so obvious to me. The number of people that are commuting, the need, the location, and this is location one. We're at least going to have two more here in the Lehigh Valley.
That's what I want to talk about too. You had mentioned, we had talked off air about Allentown and possible Easton locations. Is that already something that you're looking at? Yeah,
they're well underway. I can't talk about them too much, but yeah. Come hell or high water, we're going to have 3 locations here.
Well, it's something like I could say, hey, if I'm in Easton that day, I could say, hey, meet me in my Easton location, because I could just take my membership to whichever one
Correct.
I'm closest to.
Yeah, and I want to get to the point where we can say, look, if you live in the Lehigh Valley, you're no more than 10 minutes from world-class office space. And it's not even office space, to your point. It's a network of office space, amenities, services. If you live in Easton, jump in there in the morning, get a couple, head down hours, whatever it might be, swing into here in the afternoon and have a team meeting, head over to Allentown later to, have a client meeting. And,
do you see some of the, I guess there are some businesses that are always going to probably have these office buildings just because it makes sense to them to have that many. They have so many employees or whatnot. But do you see like some of those mid-level or mid-sized companies starting to say, hey, we would rather we'll give you a stipend to have your own office space or something like that? And people have more choice?
Companies are already starting to do that.
Yeah.
There's companies that were starting to do that prior to COVID. I was bullish on this idea, flexible office space before COVID. I'm even more so now. Now, it's tricky. We've got a lot of time still. It's still uncharted waters how we get to the new normal, whatever that may be. But without a question, it's going to be businesses wanting less space, more flexibility, more optionality, employees. And so work makes sense for the businesses, right? There's a business going to want to have 10-year leases on big buildings. Even big businesses aren't going to want that. All businesses want to be more agile, more flexible, less risk, less cost. So, we can give those things to businesses regardless of size. That's necessary. That's lifeblood for small businesses. I'd say we're at a point now where it's lifeblood for big businesses. Now, mind you, I don't have enough space if someone comes to me and says, I have 500 people. But undoubtedly, we're going to see big landlords, big commercial real estate. It's already taken place, right? I want to, if I may mention something about the Lehigh Valley. So there's some big, phenomenal companies. We were talking about WeWork. WeWork is just a phenomenal company. They do, they're just so creative, beautiful places. They do amazing work. And they're all the big global cities, and they kind of network the whole world together in a beautiful way. And there's no way they can come to, I'll say, these smaller home cities, know? But the need's not any different. I'd actually say the need's even more so, Well,
I think when you talk about some of those, people who you're talking pulsating out to New York or Philadelphia, if you can get out of college like Lehigh, Lafayette, I'm a Moravian grad, if you're able to say start somewhere quickly like here rather than have to go into some of those cities, because that is that slog of that 5 years or maybe even longer putting yourself in there just to get your foot in the door, where you can start out, maybe make some money off the bat and be successful. Have that entrepreneurial spirit.
I've been really struck. I didn't expect to see and start engaging with, again, even in this COVID time, with the number of folks focusing on startups, doing their own thing.
Yeah.
It's been tremendous. It really has.
I mean,
been
I don't want to
tremendous.
speak for my sister. She doesn't live around here, but she even during this time is looking at her career path and saying, because she's been selling all of these crocheted items online for her Etsy store, she's saying, do I even need to have my job anymore? I've been doing so well with that. Yeah. So, and would it be somebody who would benefit from office space? Possibly.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting.
And that's a big one too, right? The side hustle, people, it's got a lot of different terms, people are talking about it, but there's a lot of people out there who are doing two things, and they're looking to see, there's one probably making the money for them, there's another one probably interests them more, and as soon as they shift that, or the one that interests them more starts making the money, they're doing their own thing. It's a lot, it's out there.
I know of people who during this time period, because let's be honest, this is literally the first time that I've been outside of my home space to do something like this. We've been Zooming, doing these podcasts for the last year. It's very real that these things are changing, and you could look at the job that you've been at for 10 years and say, I don't want to go back, and that's not something that I think at least my generation has dealt with. We kind of missed that whole, we went through 9/11 and it was very devastating, but it wasn't something where we changed a whole year of how we operated, interacted, went to work, got paid, certain things like that. So for me, I think is coming out of this in the next, going through the summer and into the winter, I think it's going to be interesting to see. Do some people leave their jobs and look and try to get new things? Do some people say, I'm gonna, when is the next chance I'm gonna have to do something like this? When COVID ends, do I go right back to normal again?
I suspect we're going to see a big shift. There's no silver lining to a global pandemic. No. And the amount of time people have been able to now spend with their children, with their families.
Tell me about it.
It's huge. It is absolutely huge. And to ask somebody now get back on that 5:05 bus every single morning, people aren't going to do it. And I think people are also going to realize I was exchanging life experience, life time with my family for an extra $5,
right?
$10, $15, $20,000, right? Because there's a good chance you're going to make more money to get on that darn bus, and you go, but just the price of the bus tickets.
How many hours do you think that you commuted in your lifetime? You probably hate to know.
I don't even want to do that calculation because it'll hurt. It'll really hurt. And that's a big piece right there. I wouldn't recommend the career path I took to anybody, and not in some nobility or whatever it might be. But my point being is, why now? Why would you do that now? Why would you do a job that you didn't really love just to make a couple more bucks so you could?
I think if you I have friends who've gone they went to New York City or they went out west, and it is that badge of, I went to this city and I succeeded there, so I have accomplished more than maybe somebody who stayed in Bethlehem, and didn't do that. So, but if there are people who can get over that type of labeling, I guess, there's no reason why. Unless, I get it, like if you're in your 20s and 30s and you want to be in those really big, I guess, social hubs, that would be the one thing, I guess the one drawback of not being in a major city, but I don't know how many people are going to want to be around huge crowds in the next couple of years.
I think we'll be well served to start switching that dynamic. And I don't know if this is a great analogy, but I'm going to use it anyway, so we'll see. It says one thing to go, let's say with New York, world class, obviously, New York, greatest city in the world, arguably, people go on.
Sure.
It's one thing to say I go in and out of New York and I've done something great. I almost see that as saying you've got an amazing sports team, whatever it might be. So you joined in that sports team, and it remained a great team.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it, to me, it'd just be that much more admirable to say, no, I formulated my own team with those people who live and we made that team great. So I do think that's a real shift. So great, slogging in and out of New York, doing what, if it works for you, great. But I think there's tremendous admirability in saying, I'm choosing not to do that. I'm going to do something great right here. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the benefit of, all of the Fortune 1000 companies around, within, a a couple minutes. You know, I don't have all this. I'm going to make that amazing sports team. I'm going to lead it. I'm going to coach it. I'm going to be the star player, and I'm going to formulate a great team right here.
And I don't think we're either. I don't think we're saying that it's staying in an area like this is right for everybody. Like there should be those people who go here and go to Greece or go to wherever they're meant to be, but it is nice to know that if you live in an area like this, you don't have to maybe do that. Like you can still succeed and stay local. And beyond that, I missed it last night. You had First Friday, so I'm disappointed only because I had something else, not anything more important, but I had to stay home. This is an event space, you know, and I would imagine the other two forthcoming spaces as well. Why is that also an important thing? Is it because I know on Friday if you're in your own office, so to speak, you have your own coworkers, but I think it would be kind of fun to be rubbing elbows with people who aren't my coworkers, who are just fellow creatives or what have you, just working in the co-working space.
Yeah, a couple things there. One of the greatest values that we have here is going to be that community of people. You know, and we're not, you know, we're not full by any stretch. We're, you know, business is starting to move along. But I tell you, we're already got multiple examples of people that just working here together has amplified each other's businesses. You know, and we got some great concrete examples, and it's only going to continue to expand. As far as the event space, now obviously in COVID it's a little tricky. Last night was our first, I'll say, non-member related event. You know, event space is an important piece here because it is about the community. It is about bringing people together. I look forward to the point where I can commit to every week committing to one event that is business focused and one event that's a little more social focused. You know, every week, you know, let's say Thursday we've got wine tasting with the local winery, and you know, every Tuesday is we bring in a lawyer to talk about small business needs and accounting. Accountant. It could be anybody. It could be a member. It could be a non-member. We'll see. But a place where people see or really understand that the value here is not just in the aesthetics. It's not just in the optionality of all these different amenities and service. It's in the people that you are encountering every day.
You know, we've spent that entire year, like, I mean, not that we haven't been on the internet prior to that, but it's been so much collaboration, so much exchanging ideas. It seems dumb to go back to something where you wouldn't be freely exchanging those ideas as much as you would.
It's going to be somewhere in the middle, right? I mean, we're not all just going to stay in our basements, and we're not all just going to run out to offices. It's going to be right in the middle. I come back to that flexibility and optionality. People are going to do what works for them, what makes sense for their business, what makes sense for the family, what they're comfortable with. You know, I have had some people say, well, geez, now that, you know, working from home has proven to be an option, am I nervous about what that will mean for the business? My answer is not even close. You know, I am as introverted as a person can get,
right.
And I long for engaging and
Well, I think it's human nature. You know, it's
millions
it's
of years of
the
evolution
yang.
is not wrong.
Right.
Like we are collaborative creatures.
Right, and you want to be in that, you know, collaborative sense, and then you need time to yourself. You know, it's just it's the yin and yang of it, and that's how it works.
And I even had you can do that right here, right?
Right.
In your office, nice, quiet. You know, get into a phone booth, do whatever. Come down here.
I mean, that's a
engage.
reality. You would think, okay, you know, if more people were working from home, less people would be inclined to. But that isn't the truth because people do want to have that.
Sure.
You know, I mean, I'll be honest. Being in the attic again. If I was there without my family, I think it would be completely different. You know, I'm still upstairs. I can hear my daughter running around, and it's great, and it's fantastic. I wouldn't change it for the world. But to have that type of option here would be nice too, a little bit more focused, possibly. So,
definitely.
Well, hey, this has been fun. Again, this is our first podcast here. We're looking to do more. And for anybody watching the video, you know, check out the space. Check out the links in the podcast notes. We want to come back here and have more entrepreneurs or anybody really on here. I've already talked to some people who have expressed interest, so we're looking forward to it. And all right, Terry, thank you. I'm going to try to play us out here. So,
Pleasure. Thank you.
Party people.